Today on Crazed Performance Repair, we are going to show you guys a shortcut to replacing the bushings on this Honda Civic. This shortcut also applies to things like the GM Impalas, for instance, 2001-ish, well actually even older than that. Basically any control arm that has this horizontal bushing, for the most part, can be removed without pulling the wheel and in a very timely manner because you don't have to take much apart. Stay tuned. Okay, so not only are we going to do a bushing on this car without pulling the wheel and without pulling anything out except for just the bushing and what we need for just the bushing, which is one bolt and the bushing. We are also going to do kind of a time thing. We're going to time me. We're going to watch how long it takes and we're going to compare it to book time. So another technician versus book time thing. And I'm going to go ahead and put a time stamp at the bottom here, somewhere on the bottom of the screen. That timestamp is going to be active during the entire video footage while I'm working on the car. Now, it is going to include whenever I'm talking to you guys about the parts, but let's go ahead and let's begin with this project, and I'll start the timestamp right now. So, first thing we have to do, crank the wheel all the way over. Of course, I have the key up there, and we have to take a little bit of time away, which will be my conversation on the camera here. I'm going to try and keep my camera time to a minimum. Now, the bushing is up in this corner. This is a front bushing on this car. So you can see the bushing right here. It is separated. It's torn. Now, you want to make sure you pay attention to the direction that this bushing is in. You can see it is in there this way. Now, what they do is they point these parts that get the flexing towards the ball joint. That's their goal there. So if you ever pull one of these out and you don't know what way to put it, make sure you put the actual solid rubber parts towards the ball joint. That way it's on the movement and not twisting, because you don't want those to be twisting. So there's that. Let's go ahead and take this thing out quick. You can see I got plenty of room with this wheel aside. I'm going to crawl under here and pull it out. So, large bolt is out. We are going to take now little pry bar here, and you get it just right to be able to pry that out. Right now I cannot service it, but if I put this pry bar in here just right. Okay, so this one is not going as planned here. The other side, I already did it to get an idea. Okay, so I gotta get a bigger pry bar for this one. This one is binding a little more than what the other side does. I'm not sure why that is, but we'll go ahead and get it anyway. I'm not sure why, but this one is not going as planned, and this might happen to you too. Sometimes these things can be real stubborn. Since this one's being stubborn, I'm gonna have to get a board and put it in here. Normally what I like to do is take this arm and rest it on, you see the bolt up here, this little flange? I rest it on there, but on the bottom one. That way it's just out and available. Well, there goes a chunk of time. Just finally found the 2x4 here. Okay, so I got it on the top one. That's okay, that can work too. It doesn't have to be on the bottom flange to make it work. The top will also work. I'm going to try and get this guy in here too, because I'm about to use an air hammer on here, and once I do that, things will get a little interesting, that's for sure. There we go, okay. So now with these in here, I can go ahead and take my air hammer and chisel this guy out. Putting on my eyes and ears. Now when you do a chisel like this, you got to be cautious not to gouge this actual housing itself. You want to make sure you aim away from that. I'm going to have to move you guys out of my way. Put you down here. There you go. Got you out of my way, hopefully. Now I'm going to take and check for damage in here. There's a little bit right here. Now as you can see, I cleaned it out quite a bit. I did not remove a ton of material. I just went until it started getting shiny. You can see a little bit of the rust look right there. Most of that rust dust that was coming off from the very edges where all the rust is built up. This is actually normally pretty clean when you press these out. So now the important step, making sure you position this correctly. You do not want to screw that up. You always got to make sure that bushing is facing the right direction. Now we need the press tool, which is this guy here, and then a couple other little tools. Now we're going to take a ball joint press and put it up here. Sometimes you can do the tool on each end. Oh, of course, now I lost its position, so I got to redo that. Sometimes you can do a tool on each side. Other times you have to use a flat plate like this, so I have that over here as well. Now, this one does not have enough room to get in there at the moment, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry it again and try and shift the position of this whole assembly. And then when you go to press this in, you got to be super cautious not to press it in crooked. You press it in crooked and you're going to kill a ton of time. I'm going to start it a little crooked, but I'm going to do it in a way that I can straighten it out. This is just something you got to have experience with to get it right. Now I'm going to use the plate because of the situation of not being able to get that in where I want. And of course, drop everything. And better yet, I realize this is in my way. But I will certainly get it eventually. Just a matter of friggin' time, playing around. I was better off with the position I had it in before. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back to where I had it. All I want is just a little more room. The other side on this car is much easier to do this way. This side does definitely give you a little bit more of a challenge. Okay, so you can see I got a piece of aluminum in there as well. That's just going to add a little more thickness to this plate assembly that I have up here. And by doing that, now we should have more room to work with for the ball joint press. Okay, this one is being extremely stubborn. I'm going to go ahead and get the bushing started with a couple love taps. Sometimes you can get away with that. Most of the time you can't, but that one actually cooperated there. That's about the only thing it's cooperating with. The rest of it's giving me a hell of a time. That gravity, man, it always gets you. Alright, we're going in. Oops, sorry about that. Making you guys all kinds of crooked here. Alright, I think I'm in. Gotta check the top. Oh, gotta go a little bit more. There it is. We are in. There's that. Now we gotta push that guy back in there. Since that's a little offset, we're gonna have to pry this just a little, just to get it so it starts the pushing. There it goes. Give you guys a chance to see how the top of it is not sitting very good. That top area, you need to work that, otherwise it doesn't sit right. Now, naturally, the bushing tries to tip like this, and when it tips like that, it doesn't fit in the slotted area, so you gotta kind of pry on things to get it to fit. Okay, so now I got that started in there, so I can take the pry bar here, and there's a nice seam right here that's really strong. You go up to that area, and you give it a little pry like that. Now we're in too far, which is good. By being in too far, it's easy to pry here to adjust it. And you see I got the anti-seize on this part of the bolt, that's so it doesn't get stuck in the bushing over time when it's sitting in there. Go ahead and give this guy a little pry like so. And now it's off-centered in a way that I have to correct. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but if I pry in the right spot, I should be able to move it just right. There it goes. I'm actually prying in the other corner by the other control arm. Okay, so you can see that slides in there now, but it doesn't go in all the way. The reason being is, aiming at you guys, this is crooked, but it's crooked in a different way, this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and pry on this in order to straighten it out. And to do so, we're going to go right here, and it'll push the top of the bushing in as long as the bolt is in there. There, see that? That's what we wanted. That was perfect. Now all I gotta do, zip that in place, and we are done with that bushing. Alright, so we'll stop the clock now. Obviously I spent a little time with the camera there. And a little bit of talk time. So now all I have to do is lower the car, drive it out, good to go. So this vehicle is now completed. That bushing went really well. Little side thing for you guys to see. Sometimes these bushings do not go so well. I had a disaster on the other side. I did have an advantage on this side, only in the respect that I did have some of the tools out, but I tried to make them so that I didn't have a full advantage. Kept them a little distance away. Now normally when you do these bushings, you do both anyway. So this is a good shortcut to kill a lot of time. We'll go ahead and look at book time here in a second as well. But the thing I wanted to show you first here is what happened on the other side. So this is the other side. You can see this bushing is still stuck in here. I had to do a tactic, very strange attempt, but it sheared things off in a very strange way. Now, if you're looking at this up close, you can see this is the bushing where the rubber would be. This is the bolt. It's stuck in this bushing. I could not cut this out. I was not going to heat it to the point of melting and burning all this away and then eventually getting this out, because that would have created a hell of a lot of smoke and a disaster inside the garage here, and I just can't stand that stuff. So I tried something different, and it kind of backfired on me. Basically, I took and I used the hydraulic press and I pushed against this part of it at the top when it was still threaded in a little bit, trying to press this loose by having a socket that fits over top of this. Well, instead it ended up shearing the cradle right here. So this is a piece of the cradle, and I had to put a washer in place of that fit in the hole. I happened to find one that fit perfectly, and then I had to replace the bolt and have a washer on each side of it, and then just have the cradle a little bit further away and take up a little bit more space. So you can see the washer on the top here, that washer there, and then I have one on the bottom here as well, sandwiching bigger than the hole that's in it. And then inside the hole there is a washer that fits inside the hole perfectly. That way this still stays centered and all is happy. But of course now I have an add-on nut here instead of the built-in factory nut, because I could not find a bolt with the exact thread, because they always use some special thread. It's just the way manufacturers are sometimes. I wasn't going to go digging around to try and find the exact same thread when that nut is just a spot welded on piece. So I just removed the spot welds and put a standard nut up there and held a wrench up there, good to go. So this one's set now too, but unfortunately the cradle's a little bit jacked up, and I'm kind of ashamed of that, and I wish I could do a little bit better job. I guess lesson learned. It's gonna work fine on this one. Next time I guess I'll just have to burn the bushing and deal with it. Alright, so I wanted to give you guys a little idea here. This is one of my software for getting labor times, and you can see there's a lower control arm here, and then you have additional labor times and to renew bushings each. So normally you would be able to look up just bushings, but this particular car I have to go over here, right? If I click on bushings, and all it gives me is the parts, and because all it gives me is the parts prices, suggested prices, that's obviously not actual, but since that's all it gives me, I went up here and I had to click all. Now when you click all, you get this time, which is for both sides, and then the one side, which is 1.3, and then to renew the bushings each is 0.2. So what you would have to do in this kind of situation is do one side of 1.3 plus the 0.2, so it would be 1.5 for one bushing, okay? And then of course, being here in Minnesota, the one thing that we have an advantage of as a tech, or disadvantage, whichever way you want to look at it, I guess it can go both ways, disadvantage on my behalf for the other side, but we add time usually to these numbers. So this 1.3 would be, for instance, 1.5. You just add a couple tenths, and this may be 0.3, or maybe you wouldn't do anything with it because you already added it here. So you'd either be 1.7 or 1.8 for the one bushing. Now obviously the time that it took me was not near as much. I'll throw a picture of what it took me right here. I'll just throw some text, and yeah, so that pretty much sums that up. So if these little tech time versus the car videos are kind of fun for you guys, along with learning a shortcut at the same time, be sure to hit that like button. Gotta love that like button. Make sure you leave a comment if you have any questions. Want to shame me for the other side? Go for it. More power to you. So like, share, subscribe, and as always, I hope to see you on another video. Thanks for watching.